The world awoke in fire the morning the KarmaKnights rode out from the ashes of their first trial, and though the scars of the last battle still burned across their armor and skin, it was their hearts that carried the heaviest wounds, for each of them had seen not only the cruelty of their enemies but the shadows within themselves, those whispers that come in the silence after steel is clashed, reminding you that every warrior's greatest enemy lives in the reflection of his own eyes, and so as the crimson sun clawed its way up through a horizon still smudged with smoke and ruin, Saran, the young knight marked by destiny yet doubted by his own spirit, stood upon the ridge and tried to steady the storm in his chest, for though his blade had struck true against the monstrous revenants unleashed in Episode 1, though he had stood shoulder to shoulder with comrades who trusted him with their lives, a voice inside still hissed that he was not enough, that he was a pretender in armor too heavy for his frame, that the path ahead would devour him long before he could claim the title of true warrior, and as he stared across the valleys below where scattered villages trembled under the new threat of the Wraithlords, he felt the weight of choice pressing upon him like the edge of a blade against the skin, because to walk forward meant to risk not just his life but the lives of every brother and sister beside him, yet to stand still meant to surrender the world to darkness without a fight, and so he clenched his fists and whispered to the dawn that he would find the strength within or die carving it from the marrow of his bones, unaware that forces greater than any he had yet seen were already moving pieces across the board, testing not his sword but his soul, and so began the path of the inner warrior, a journey not written in sunlight but in scars, where loyalty would be tested by lies, where strength would be shattered by fear, and where even the purest heart might find itself stained in blood. And as the KarmaKnights descended from that ridge into the heart of a kingdom cracking beneath the weight of invasion, they carried not only swords but secrets, for among them walked betrayal disguised as loyalty, and redemption wearing the mask of ruin, and though none could see it yet, every step forward was a step deeper into the labyrinth of their own fates, a labyrinth that would demand more than steel could ever give, a labyrinth that would demand they face the truth of who they were when stripped of titles, stripped of victories, stripped even of hope, until only the raw, unbroken spirit of the inner warrior remained to decide whether they would rise or be consumed. Words left her lips, then the cobblestones shuddered, and from the cracks rose a tide of shadow-forged warriors, their armor black as void, their blades dripping with venomous smoke, and though Saran and his companions formed a circle, steel flashing in the twilight, he felt in the pit of his chest. The road into the kingdom's heart was a ribbon of ruin, scattered with the charred remains of wagons and the bones of villagers who had fled too slowly, and as the KarmaKnights advanced, their armor creaking under the weight of silence more crushing than the sound of any battlefield, each step became a reminder that this was not a journey of glory but of survival, for in the eyes of the survivors who peered out from shattered doorways or hid behind scorched stones, there was no worship, no celebration, only desperation and suspicion, as though they sensed that even heroes carried shadows within them, and perhaps it was true, for within Saran burned a secret he had never confessed. When his blade cut down the revenant